another edition of Target Score Winnipeg. I'm Joey Slattery. With me is Taylor Allen. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at Target Score WPG. On YouTube, it is at Target Score Podcast. I'm at Joey Slattery TV. Taylor is at Taylor Allen 31. Championship weekend is over, Taylor. And a lot of good reviews of championship weekend. I think we should really start there before we dive into the basketball stuff. But I want to start off by saying that was a really cool event. I was very happy to be part of it. I thought the Sea Bears and the CEBL did a wonderful job pulling it off. It felt like a real championship. That final game, with the confetti and the presentation, the festival was a lot of fun. And I really enjoyed the weekend. And I think a lot of teams and people that came in from other markets enjoyed it as well. But what were your impressions?
Yeah, I mean, never mind my impressions. Vic Razzo, head coach of the Niagara River Lions. I asked him after the final about his thoughts just on Winnipeg, the week that we had and whatnot, and he said this was the best, championship weekend that we've probably had in league history. And this is a guy who's been coaching, been involved in this league since day one, has been to quite a few of these, obviously. So I think that kind of says everything that you need to know. And obviously, if the Sea Bears made it to the final on Sunday, the place would have been rocking. But you know what? 7,000 fans in a city where two teams aren't from and they're playing. That's pretty good, Joey. You just look at last year's final in Montreal. There's only 3,000 fans that saw Niagara beat Vancouver in that one. So Winnipeg more than doubled that. And then, of course, having just over 9,000 for the West final on the Friday with the Sea Bears and Surge was a good turnout. I'm sure, I know the Sea Bears were hoping for a little more than that. I think they're hoping to get over 10, but still 9,000 strong, awesome turnout. And yeah, it was just a great week. All the events ran really smoothly. It was just cool, being kind of the center of the Canadian basketball scene for a week. I don't know if Winnipeg ever really has been before. So yeah, overall, great experience, but also kind of happy it's over because that was a long week. And you and I, we both were pretty busy this week. So nice to kind of take an actual deep breath.
The Monday morning podcast recording was a tough one, but we had to do it, Taylor, because we are committed. I will say, I was expecting 10 to 12, but it was a great crowd, the 9,000 that showed up. Unfortunately, the Sea Bears weren't able to pull through in that game. The other thing I found really cool, if we can go into a little bit of more local tie to this, was the outdoor festival. That's really the first time we've seen like that whole pedestrian area on Graham being used for something like this. And I thought it was really cool. Like I really enjoyed, that was probably my favorite part of the weekend, was just at any point you could walk around downtown and there was stuff going on. It felt very vibrant. I think it's a good footprint or blueprint, of what's to come and what can be done with that area. But yeah, I really enjoyed the whole thing. Like I don't think Champ Weekend is coming back next season, but I hope the league puts it in his back pocket as something to revisit down the road. We've talked about the format, that we're not fans of it, and the buy and, for the host team and things like that. But I think they're, go to the best of 3 series or whatever it is you want to do next year, maybe year 2, 3 years down the road. But I think when you get to year 10, you start looking at it like, how do we make this, as the teams in other markets get stronger and, the league gets more of a following, that you can make it a festival. Because I really like the connectedness of it in terms of working, as the digital host for the CEBL and talking to fans, right? There are people from Vancouver, Edmonton, Brampton, Niagara. Like Niagara had 50 people, it looked like, that I could count. Like it was probably less than 50, but it seemed like a lot for the game, that people that were actual Niagara fans with jerseys and t-shirts and all the other stuff. And it kind of had a bit of a CFL, like a mini CFL Grey Cup festival feel.
Yeah, for sure. But one thing that was kind of interesting was that at the final game, there was more Niagara fans than Surge fans. Winnipeg, not that far from Calgary. And Joey, I don't think I saw, I'm sure there was a few, but I don't think I saw any Calgary.
No, you're probably right.
That's kind of weak, Calgary. Come on, step it up. Or Niagara.
let's give them
brothers sitting courtside. They somehow brainwashed those two to jump on the bandwagon on Sunday. But yeah, there was a couple of Niagara fans, and there was the Niagara fan. Let's give this guy a shout out. The Niagara fan on Friday who hit the half court shot as well.
Yes,
so
that was back-to-back games
for River Lions.
Back-to-back games of the half court shot, because the last game, the home game of the season, that went viral on ESPNW. That girl that hit the half court shot too. But I think that's less on Calgary and more on Winnipeg hating Calgary. after what happened on Friday and jumping on the Niagara bandwagon. I saw a lot of people that were finding Niagara-ish stuff. Tracksuit Brothers, for instance, they got jerseys. I think I saw a few other jerseys elsewhere, but yeah, it was definitely a Niagara home crowd, but I think Winnipeg had a lot to do with that for sure. But yeah, great weekend. I really like to see it again. I hope this sets the stage for other events to come, as you were saying, basketball wise, whether it's Basketball Canada, G League, WNBA, NBA, whatever it is. If we can get an NBA exhibition or something like that, I think we set the stage of what we can do. But let's get into the basketball, Tay. Sea Bears losing to Calgary, which I don't think is a surprise. Calgary was so strong all year. And I was talking about going into it, how I felt Calgary was a little bit, I'm not going to say disrespected, but under-respected, right? And I'll try to keep this note in mind as we move on to the final, but they beat Vancouver 4 times this year. They swept the season series, controversial win in the West Final, but I never thought they didn't deserve to be there. And Winnipeg, though, had a full year to figure this out, right? Like it was more than a year because it was announced last season, or was it 2024, right? Before the season started, I think, where they made the formal announcement. Mike Morreale came up and made the announcement. So this is a team that had so much time to plan for it from a basketball standpoint. Things went awry pretty early this season, and we gave Mike Taylor credit for, riding that and, kind of pulling the chute on the original plan and finding the players he needed to fill the void. But, it didn't get done. And, it didn't really feel like at any point in that game, I never had a feeling, and you and I actually, for maybe the first time, sat beside each other for a game on the press.
The first time in 3-year Sea Bears history.
Yeah, because I'm usually calling the game or on the sidelines, right? So it was really cool. And, we were talking about it throughout the game. It never really felt at any point, even the target time, it got interesting a little bit. And there was that push. And, I think if this happened last year, you would have had that belief, they're going to come back. It's target time. But this team didn't have that magic this year as they had in years past at Canada Life Center. And it was a little bit disappointing to see that, Calgary kind of controlled it from start to finish, and they weren't able to get it through. I don't know. I saw that game as something where, man, it just wasn't ever going to work, right? The whole season it was talking about, working on chemistry, building on this, preparing for that. And then when the time came to put it all in practice, it really didn't look much different from what we saw in the regular season.
Well, I mean, for the Sea Bears, Jalen Harris going down in the second quarter with some back spasms, and he spent half the game on a massage table in the back trying to get his back right. Then he runs past the media bench, and I believe it was the third quarter, and he gives a thumbs up to Mike Taylor, and it's okay, the Sea Bears, they might be okay, because at that point,
felt like the Paul Pierce moment.
Yeah, it wasn't looking great, but it's okay, there's still enough. I forget what the exact score was, but there was still time, for Jalen to come back in and, help get the guys back on track and maybe make things interesting.
Yeah.
So he gives a thumbs up, goes back in there, okay, they're getting their star player back. Here we go. And early in the fourth, he has to leave again. It's just back just wasn't letting him kind of move around the way that he kind of needs to. So, yeah, for Jalen Harris to only play 15 minutes, I mean, obviously that is worst case scenario for the Sea Bears. There's no way that they can knock off a team like Calgary with arguably their best player, being held to 15 minutes. And not only that, Joey, I mean, Simi Shitu, the last time the Sea Bears played Calgary, Simi had the game of his life, basically. 28 points, 15 boards, a bunch of blocks. He was just an absolute monster. But Joey on Friday, completely different story. I think that was his worst game of the season by far.
They were ready for him.
Right here.
Yep.
Yeah, apparently. I mean, he shot 4 for 17, 13 points. He had 10 boards. I know that doesn't sound that bad, but I mean, he had 6 shots blocked. Yeah. They were meeting him at the rim. They were not letting him get any easy buckets. So when one of your best players barely plays and then your other best player, has an off night, I guess to only lose by 11, that's kind of somewhat impressive, I guess. But I mean, just Calgary, they are the perfect example of, when you have only 4 import spots, use them wisely, and you got to hit home runs with those 4 imports. Because you look at the Sea Bears team, after Jalen Harris, I mean, Trey Scott had a really good game, but
Terry Roberts was injured too. That didn't help.
That didn't help. That didn't help. I mean, if you need Jaron Cumberland to play 25 minutes in a West final game, I mean, that's clearly not going to work out very well. My God, every time that guy made a pass, it felt like it was just like, what are you doing, right? He wasn't shooting the ball well, and they had to have him playing crunch time because Terry was hurt and Jalen was hurt as well. So, yeah, honestly, there was a point in that game where it looked like Calgary was going to run away and win by 30 points. So I was actually kind of surprised that the Sea Bears were able to claw back in the fourth quarter like that. So kudos to them. But yeah, Joey, there was really never any point in that game where I'm not trying to be negative, but it's just true.
No,
It's just
it's
Calgary
yeah,
totally
like and that
outclassed them. There's never a point where I thought Winnipeg was going to win that game.
no, and that's what I'm getting at, right? Like, of course, there are things that worked against them. The big one being Jalen Harris playing through the back spasms and the injuries, and I was glad to see him come back. Like the one thing I kind of felt at that time, if anything, was this game means something, right? Like kind of I was thinking this might be the moment where they rally, right? Like our star's back, let's help him out. Terry Roberts not having him, I think, was very crucial. Especially when you have guards like Evan Gilliard and Jameer Nelson who are on fire at that point. And that would have been a great tandem to fight back with, right? You have 2 point guards yourself that you can play at the floor at the same time that have been clicking throughout the year. But like even with Simi Chateau, like that guy is grinding. You're up against the top shot blocking team in the league. You got Greg Brown as the top shot blocker, the team that had the best defense throughout the season. 2 players nominated for Defensive Player of the Year and one winning it. But like Jordy Chamunga didn't play. Mo Kalu didn't play. As far as I know, they were healthy, right? Like it didn't seem like there was help. And like one of the things that like I was thinking about during the game too was there's a lot of talk of building the depth, right? Needing that depth and the bench scoring, but then they didn't really seem to go to the bench. The other thing that like kind of like I raised an eyebrow a little bit too was Emmanuel Acott getting the start over Nate Balamu. And I know in the press conference post game, Mike Taylor spoke to that a little bit. I think you might have asked the question about that, it was a matchup thing, but it just seemed, from a team that had kind of been lacking connectivity at times throughout the season, they kind of found it towards the end. And Nate Balamu was a big reason why they seemed to rally around that guy. And I thought maybe they would start him and then put Emmanuel Acott in like relatively early, but let him get a feel for the game first as he's back and come off the bench with fresh legs and, maybe be the difference maker and play your 25, 30 minutes from there. But yeah, it was just, there's a few things there where it just kind of felt like, you're putting your best team out there. I know that's the plan and what the roster makeup that Mike Taylor was trying to put out was he thought that was the best lineup to put out against Calgary. But, yeah, I thought for sure Nate Balamu would be competing there. But I think just overall, it's just the team from what it was supposed to be at the start of the season to what it was at championship weekend was much different. Like how many players that were actually around at the end, like especially when Emmanuel Acott was gone, it was like a whole new team from day one. I think that might have hurt a little bit. I know it's the nature of the league, but at the same time, Calgary kept their team, right? Made some few additions here and there, Evan Gilliard being the big one. Edmonton kept their team for the most part throughout the season. Couple of big additions or impactful additions, I think we'll say with Edmonton. Vancouver, same deal, right? Guys going to Summer League coming back. So there's got to be something there, and I just think with championship weekend, it's kind of like for the hockey fans out there, the Memorial Cup, right? If you're hosting Memorial Cup, you load up your team that year, knowing that you're going to the final. And that's usually, they'll get the best overages available and they'll get whatever stars on a team that's fledgling elsewhere or whatever. But I think I just felt bad for the fans in the sense that would have been nice to see some lead changes at the very least, right? Not to say that they had to win the game. It was just, it just felt like Calgary went in there, and I know Calgary is a team that gets on people's nerves, and they did so, right? Like that was the other thing. You're playing Calgary of all teams. You've got Evan Gilliard doing this every time he hits a three, but it's just they didn't seem to have an answer for Calgary. And big thing was that transition. It's been a thing that's been bogging them down all year. And Calgary was getting out on the run. They were getting a groove. The ball was whipping around, and Winnipeg just didn't have an answer.
Well, you talk about loading up for Memorial Cup when you're hosting it or whatever, you're going to be there. But you look at the Sea Bears team. I mean, day one they trotted out Tevin Jones, Jalen Williams, Solomon Young. Who am I missing as their imports?
Terry Roberts was there.
Terry Roberts, yes, thank you. fine players, but really like you match those four guys. And we very quickly realized that those four guys weren't going to work, obviously. So it's almost kind of scary to think like
What if
if
this
the
team was
Seabears
together?
didn't, well, if the Seabears didn't pick up Will Richardson and Trey Scott, if they didn't get kind of lucky bringing in those two guys, or the fact of if Terry and Jalen Williams didn't leave for summer league, which opened the door to bring in those two guys, like where would this team had finished? Because like Trey Scott and Will Richardson were their best two players in this team.
Yeah.
Will Richardson almost had a triple double,
Will
17
Richardson's
points,
really
10
good.
boards, 7 assists. He's fantastic. And then
Yeah.
Trey Scott led the team in scoring with 18 points. Yeah, and again, these are two guys that they just kind of brought in, and there was no even guarantee that those two were going to even finish the season because they were just kind of supposed to like keep the seats warm for Jalen Williams and Terry Roberts, but then obviously they just outperformed those guys, and the rest was kind of history. But yeah, I don't know, Joey. Like again, the roster from day one obviously wasn't good enough. It felt like they were just trying to figure it out on the fly, and that's not going to work. Like you mentioned, all these other teams that you named. I mean, they're not winging it. Right. Yeah. The Sea Bears kind of felt like at times this year, they were just kind of winging it and whatnot. And obviously,
and maybe like kind of getting the best available players, which I know is what you're trying to do. But like on paper, that was a really good team. Like Winnipeg had a strong roster if you look down each individual person on that team. But like, I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but that's kind of the vibe you kind of get when you're looking at it. It was a group of individuals where like you look at that year one team where it just felt like there was a connection to the fans in the city. And like, that was kind of the driving factor, right? Like playing at home and last year, very much so, because look at like, it was literally win every game at home, lose every game on the road. It felt like last year, right? I think they had one home loss and one road loss, if I recall correctly. But, this year it didn't seem to have that sticking power for whatever reason. Like, and you touched on it like earlier in the season, where it's like, every time you're going into a game, there's a new player. Like who's this guy, right? Like whose jersey do I buy? Who's going to stick around for the whole season kind of thing. But there was, this team looked really good on paper, but I think when you're going through that phase where it doesn't work out at the start, then you're trying to fill holes with the best possible players, but you can't really spend too much time thinking on the cohesion of the team. Like you're just kind of hoping, okay, we got a great player. Hopefully our team welcomes that guy in and they work. Right. But you noticed it too. Like you were at shoot arounds. Like it was just like, you look at teams like Niagara and Calgary who were in the final, like there was that, like they just looked more connected. I don't know how to like put it into words, but they were having fun, but they were focused, right? Like you can tell that there was some long-standing, almost, even though some of them weren't long-standing relationships, like they just seemed like they'd been playing together a real long time and had that goal. And maybe it's because of the record, right? When you're top of your conference or, second best record in the league for Calgary, like those things come easier. But it's just, it was, for a year, I can't imagine the disappointment for even Mike Taylor, right? You try to build this up for a year for this one game, essentially. You go through a whole season, like we talked about last podcast, like finally a meaningful game, and to not come through. But it's not uncommon. This has happened the last, now 4 years, I guess, because you had Ottawa, Vancouver, Montreal, and Winnipeg. Like they've not come out of that game as champs, like as conference champions. So, sounds like we're not going to have to be dealing with that again, like in terms of the championship weekend process or structure. So, we'll go back to a traditional playoff where, everybody has to earn their way all the way up. But I think it was a little bit of an albatross this year, if I'm being totally honest, with, knowing that you're in the West Final and trying to build that perfect team for that one game, hopefully two. But just didn't work out for Winnipeg.
Mike Taylor said it wasn't, though. Mike
What's
Taylor
that?
said it wasn't. I asked him.
Yeah.
I asked Mike Taylor post game, is hosting kind of the kiss of death? And he said, no. Like if we could do it over again, like I totally would. And I mean, who knows if he actually means that or not. But and I know you touched on it a little bit, but Emmanuel Aycott's starting. I mean, he played 30 minutes. This is a guy who left them for 3 weeks and wasn't going to come back unless South Sudan got knocked out early, which they did and people didn't expect. So, yeah, I thought starting him, even if he is a better matchup, didn't love the message that sends to your team that, hey, here's a guy who kind of, I mean, if we're being honest, left us high and dry. Yeah. And then there's a guy who, like Nate Blum, who's been busting his ass since day one, wasn't guaranteed a thing, and played, relatively well when E-Man left. And, he sits and E-Man starts. And I know it doesn't really matter who starts a game. Technically, it matters more who ends the game. And you and I talked about it before the game. We're like, I'd probably start Nate, and then E-Man's going to finish the game, and that would have been fine. But yeah, I don't know, just E-Man starting. And no disrespect to E-Man, like we talked about it a couple days before, or Thursday, I guess, and you could just tell the look in his eyes, like just how much it meant to him to represent South Sudan, a place where both of his parents were from and whatnot. So, I do understand why he left, but I didn't love the move to not start Balamu, but I digress.
I can say I got more than a few DMs of people just like, really? Like, like when the post went out of the starting five. And yes, and I'm like, honestly, I kind of felt the same way. I wasn't like, really, it was more like, wow, like I just assumed that it would be Nate Balamu that would be the starting. And just to touch on like the bench part too, because as I'm talking with a player from Calgary, like one player from Calgary tells me, like when the Sea Bears signed Chimanga, the team was like, oh, wow, like that's a problem, is how it was put. Like it sent shockwaves internally, like with teams internally across the league, that of that signing and the magnitude, because he's a really good player. And he's a guy like, and you've been in the gym, like he's usually the last guy out there working on, his post play, and then he'll try his half court shots to end the game, always try to go on a hit. But I was just, like it seemed like Simi Chateau could have used at least a break, a few times, or at least some support when you're going up against guys that are blocking shots and, you're fighting for those rebounds. Like I thought for sure, like you brought these guys in, and I just felt like throughout the season we didn't really see him much, right, since they were brought in. So
Jordy was brought in to be a social media star. Basically, he did all their like promo stuff on Instagram and stuff, but that's really the only time you would see Jordy. Yeah, because I'm with you. When they signed him, I was like, hey, this guy put up some massive numbers in Taiwan this winter, averaging like 18 rebounds or something crazy like that.
And he wasn't playing this year. Like he decided, I'm not coming, like to the CEBL in general. And then he gets the call and decides, you know what, this is a good opportunity. So,
yeah. So, and same with Mo Kalu. Like, who knows what these guys were promised or told or whatever. Then they joined late in the year. We thought there would be some, nice late reinforcements for this bench that had struggled all year. And then we never saw them, unless you saw them answering whatever funny Instagram question that the team's social media was asking them. So yeah, that was kind of puzzling for sure, especially with Simi struggling like the way he did. But Joey, I mean, I think the thing that Sea Bears Nation is really talking about right now is the future of this team and whether or not Mike Taylor will be a part of it. So shout out to a friend of the program, Gavin Axelrod. Mm-hmm. He asked Mike after the game, what his thoughts are about the future and whether or not he thinks he's going to be a part of it. And Mike said that he's committed and he'd love to be back, but it's up to, David Asper. And he said these conversations will happen relatively soon, but he wants to remain in Winnipeg. And he actually led that question off by saying, I actually like Winnipeg, which is like, that's kind of like a backhanded compliment, I guess. But anyways, I'm sure he didn't mean anything bad by it. But yeah, so then we on our Instagram, we posted Mike's response to that or whatever. And Joey, here are the responses that that post generated. So one person posted the Bugs Bunny no gif. Another person posted the no God, no please no Michael Scott gif. Another person posted the Shannon Sharp, shaking his head no gif. Another person posted Kevin Hart shaking his head no gif. Another person said this man is single-handedly bringing the franchise down with him. Another person said, we need a new coach and better players. That usually works out pretty well when you do that. Another person says, not renewing my season tickets if this is the case. So I think it's safe to say, Joey, that Sea Bears fans would prefer Mike to not come back, but obviously fans don't always get what they want. Yeah. Joey, what's your take on the status of Mike Taylor? Clearly there's been some good, clearly there's been some bad. It's been 3 years. 3 playoff losses, still haven't won a playoff game.
Yeah.
Hosted championship weekend, didn't do anything with it. So Joey, where do the Sea Bears go from here?
I mean, the argument leans very much on the exit for sure, right? Like the 0-3 in the playoffs doesn't help. I mean, the record hasn't gotten better. Like, they've kind of been stagnant almost from year 1 to year 3, like in different versions though. Like, last year being terrible on the road, and they fixed that this year. But like, you have to give Mike credit as well too, like in terms of the things that he did do, like in establishing the team in the first place and the players he was able to, exploit. Like you look at the Teddy Allen era before it went off the rails and they released him, but the first team that he built honestly like overachieved, right? So he had a team that
Big time.
what we
Big
thought
time.
wasn't going to do anything and overachieved, and then he slowly built rosters that had better players, so now the expectation goes up, and they weren't able to to match, I guess, the expectation that was created in the first year. The league got better as well, right? That's the other thing. I mean, there's better players in the league now. It's faster. It's more, more athletic. The brand of basketball is getting better as well. And he's done a lot for this community. I mean, you and I talked about it from a media standpoint. He was always available, always there to, answer for interviews, whatever the case may be. He was very open with his analysis. Like I can honestly say, like I learned things talking to Mike Taylor, which I appreciated. Like he would break things down, like off, like when you're not recording, you're just chatting with him. Like he's a great basketball mind. But I just don't know if the teams that he formed in the last two seasons, particularly this season, are a fit for even him, right? As a coach. I think there was a lot of individual coaching this year. I don't know if the team bought into as much of the team stuff as much as like winning a championship will help you to get there. Like I felt there was a lot more of that narrative this year. Like we talked a lot more about future contracts this year and what guys are playing for after the Sea Bears as opposed to like this particular season. But it's a tough decision because if like, of course he's going to say that, right? That he wants to stay here. Like, I don't think there's a coach out there, and Taylor is a pretty positive guy, right? Like he's, optimistic when he's speaking to the media. I don't know what the conversations are like behind closed doors, but rarely did we see him freaking out or being overly negative unless, a player was leaving kind of thing. Right. But I writing's on the wall, it seems, right? The record that's there. But I don't know the full story of what the organization thinks of him from other areas as well. Right. And the other thing too, is like, I was thinking about it is the double role too much? General manager and head coach, right? Like there's only a few of those in the league, and it's nice to have full control of your roster and everything else. But if he focuses on one, is he better at one as opposed to trying to do both at the same time? I don't know what the options will be. Like I'm wondering if we're not letting you go totally, but we're stripping you of one title because we really need you to focus on that title, right? And then finding a coach or a GM that can tandem with him in a partnership. But it'll be interesting. I mean, I think like the fans have made it clear what they want, and clearly there's been underperformance there, and it'll come down to the organization internally talking about what steps have gone forward. Do they see that same vision that Mike is saying? Because Mike Taylor in the press conference says, and I'm paraphrasing here, but basically like we're building towards something, we're moving in the right direction. But when you look at the numbers up until now, like it's hard to see that, if I'm being honest, right? It looks like a team, they've had better rosters, but they still seem to be behind the curve on a number of things, like key players leaving, bringing in guys midseason that are not clicking. I mean, it was going even back to Justin Wright Foreman last year, as good as he was. Like I never felt like there was suddenly maybe it looked like they were clicking more because things got so bad with Teddy Allen and Byron Mullins and, in that Father's Day game. But it's tough to make the argument that, he comes back in the same capacity with the record that he had now and, unable to deliver a playoff win, let alone a championship, a playoff win in 3 years. And as I said before, this team is not a novelty in Winnipeg. It is a part of the sports fabric. The fans now want wins. The fans want to go see a competitive team, and they want a championship. Yes, they love, I don't like the Sea Bears aren't in trouble. Put it that way. I don't see people like, I know emotions are high right now. Let's just say he does come back. I don't know how many people are actually going to pull the trigger on like, I'm canceling my season tickets. Like it's still a hot ticket in town. It's still a great show. And the Sea Bears do a wonderful job at that, but there is the expectation that they want what Vancouver was able to do, right? They lost, and with the same staff, they lost in worse fashion in their conference final 2 years ago. And then last year turned it around with a key player, Mitch Creek, coming in and building a culture around that one player. So like, is there that one player
not just
here?
one player though. They brought in the best player
Yeah,
in the league. It's
100%.
not so simple. And you
No,
look
but
at
what
the
I'm
Sea
getting
Bears
at,
team.
yeah, but what I'm getting at though is like it doesn't have to be the best player. Like as much as Mitch Creek is the best player, like he built a culture around him. Like the culture of the team totally changed in how they approach everything, right? So yeah, okay, Mitch Creek's the best player right now. But he's from Australia. Is there another player that comes in next year that is the Mitch Creek that we don't know about? Because no one knew about Mitch Creek when he came in. He just lit the league on fire, right? But the big thing for me is the creating that culture from within, like from a player standpoint. If you have the player leadership that can build that culture, the buy-in, Chad Posthumous was that guy, right? Like a culture guy. Like there was that connectivity. He made guys feel connected to the city. He made sure that they were going to the right places, the right restaurants, like falling in love with Winnipeg and the Sea Bears. And I think that was a big thing missing this year. But it's from a coaching standpoint and a general manager standpoint, something needs to change. Even if Mike Taylor remains, like something needs to change because you can't go year after year after year, making the playoffs and not winning. But they've made the playoffs every year. Like that's another argument too, right? You look at a Saskatchewan who's on the outside looking in, but no, you're right.
Whatever.
Like I'm just playing devil's advocate on this.
Man. 10-team
100%,
league. 10-team
100%.
league. You cannot hang your hat on making the playoffs.
And that's what I'm saying. You can't. Like you got to win the game. Like it's like you can say you got to the playoffs. That's great, but they've been there 3 times, and you weren't able to get it done.
And this year they were so far behind the top 3 in the West: Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. Those 3 were the class of the West, and yeah, the Sea Bears technically would have still been in the play-in game or whatever. But if they weren't hosting the Final Four, there's no chance they would have made it. The West was an absolute gauntlet this year. It felt in the post game on Friday that Mike was trying to like sell himself, basically.
Yeah,
it didn't matter what we were asking him. He kept going back to like, oh, the effort was great tonight. The effort was great. And obviously, if you're a sports fan, you kind of know effort usually has a lot to do with coaching. Guys are going to give more effort if they've got a coach that brings out the best of them and whatnot. And it felt like he mentioned effort probably like 20 times.
Yes.
So it kind of felt like he was fighting for his job through the media, like a tiny bit. Maybe I'm looking too much into it.
No, I don't think you are. Because contrast to that, just to your point real quick, when we talked to Coach Caleb Canales after the loss with Calgary, none of that, right? It was just, we lost. Our goal is to win a championship. We lost flat out. And his answers were short. There was a sense of disappointment, but this is to your point. Exactly. There was no sales going on. It was just like, no, this is real. Like we are done and it's not okay. Like we're like, I love this team. We didn't come through. And you're right. I didn't feel like there was that messaging. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt you, but I agree with you wholeheartedly there.
I interrupt you all the time, so it's all good. But yeah, and he says, we're building towards something here, and I'm sure they are. But I mean, Joey, and we'll get into this, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. But you look at this current Sea Bears roster. I mean, how many of these guys would you truly, truly, truly want back?
Trayvon Scott,
I would say,
Richardson.
And Simi. There's not too many Canadian centers.
Sorry, and Simi 100%, and Jordy.
But after those. Yeah, for his social media presence, I guess.
No, I mean, like, I want him to play.
Well, why would he want to come back here after you brought
100%.
him in? You talked.
That's who I would want back.
Yeah, well, he got talked out of getting off his couch for the rest of the summer, coming to Winnipeg, and he doesn't even play. But yeah. So I mean, like, who are they really building around here?
Yeah.
Will and Trey and Simi are great, but I mean, you look at some of these other teams, they just kind of have like that core identity, right? And there's so much roster turnover in this league, and it's never going to be the same from year to year. But just like, I don't know, it's just like, who are you really building around in this market? I think if I'm being honest, these past 2 seasons, this roster had some immaturity issues, and of course, not having Chad in the room was a massive blow, right? And Alex Campbell stepped up as a leader, and he's a great captain and whatnot. But after him, I think that was an actual issue with this team. Like, it's not just about basketball. It's not just about bringing in guys who were have these impressive resumes and played in the G League and played in the NBA for a hot minute. Like, you need some guys that have good heads on their shoulders, that are mature and whatnot. And not to throw Terry Roberts under the bus, but I mean, he goes to summer league, tells the team he's going to come back. And then he basically stops answering them, and they have no idea whether or not he's going to come back. So then they bring in Jaron Cumberland, and then Terry says, "Oh, actually, I can come back now." Like what is that? Like, no offense, again, no offense to Terry. I'm not trying to just, dump on him, but it's like, if you're building a team, you're building an identity, you're trying to like build something that's gonna, be a championship caliber squad, you need guys that are all in. You can't have guys
100%.
that you don't know what they're doing and whatever, and you're bringing in guys on the fly and stuff. Like, I don't know, man. Like, I didn't see what the vision was this year, and I mentioned it earlier, but again, that game one roster was horrendous. And credit to them for picking up Jalen Harris, and who knows, maybe before the year that was already in the works, maybe not, who knows. But yeah, just again, like the fact that these guys that they were plugging in midway through the year and whatever ended up being their best players is nice that they're able to get these guys, but like you just need some. It can't just be all over the place, and it has felt these past few years has just been all over the place. So I don't really know what the vision is. I don't exactly know what he meant by that we're building towards something, because it feels like the direction, the vision has changed every week with this team. So it's going to be a very interesting offseason. And if you want my opinion on the Mike Taylor situation, I think you hit the nail right on the head. You can't stay status quo. If you bring him back next year as both the head coach and GM, people are going to probably revolt, if I'm being honest. But that's not why you shouldn't. But I'm just saying people will. So I think the best thing that they could probably do is keep Mike as head coach, give him one more chance, but you got to bring in a new GM.
Well,
because that's a lot of work.
100%.
Not many guys are doing both. And you look at Calgary. Let's say Calgary's the team that they're chasing, right? Well, they have a separate GM and a separate head coach, and their head coach has one of the best resumes, really in the league, and he just gets to focus on coaching. And Mike has a good resume too. So just let the guy focus on coaching, bring in a GM to, put his stamp on things. And I think things might be a little bit better, but obviously they have to bring in the right GM for that to work. But again, long story short,
a lot in your
not going to 2026 exactly the same. It's got to be, they got to change something.
And there's a lot of near misses. There are some big time players in this league that were close to coming here. Jackson Rowe being one of them. We talked about that earlier. He didn't come to the league at all because of his two-way contract in the NBA. But I think there were a few players they were planning on that ended up going to other teams or not coming to the CEBL at all. And then the question is why, right? Some of them in conference. Why are they going to, the Vancouvers, the Calgarys of the world? Winnipeg is a crown jewel. So, we've heard many coaches and players say they love playing here. So there's got to be that recruiting advantage being used to the top here. Before we go, though, and this isn't the last podcast of the year. We will have another episode, or at least a couple. But real quick, championship game, because I just wanted to say we were talking about Calgary and that we were talking about, what was it now? I said I had to remember the whole point of it. But Niagara, another team that was under respect, another team that was under respected all year. And Vic Razzo said that very thing in the press conference. And I thought it was bang on. A team that, everybody was crowning Vancouver until Vancouver was knocked out. Then everybody was crowning Calgary, like Niagara wasn't the defending champions and had the best record in the East. We focused on the 5 games, rightfully so. But that was a team that was built to win a championship. And when the games mattered most, they found a way to win. It was a tight win against Scarborough, probably tighter than they'd like, but they won. And then with Calgary, they had an excellent game plan, and I thought they executed it very well.
And it was a grind of a game. It was the lowest scoring final in league history, and talking to, Niagara afterwards, and they were like, that's exactly what we wanted. We wanted it to be a grind. I mean, you look at even Niagara's shooting numbers, they weren't that great. And Khalil Ahmad, he only had 16 points, but, obviously like he does time and time again, he turned it on in target score time. But I mean, you look at Calgary in these 3 playoff wins, they've been this offensive juggernaut, right? Evan Gilliard Jr., Jameer Nelson Jr., the juniors, averaging 27 points per game in their postseason run, just being absolutely electric. And both of them were held to 13 points apiece. I'm watching this game, and I keep thinking, and I know the first half they're kind of struggling and whatever. Jameer Nelson Jr. hits that half-court shot to go into halftime. I'm like, okay, well, that'll give them some pep in their step. And in the second half, I'm sure they'll start to wake up. Well, then Niagara takes a 16-point lead in the third quarter. Yeah. And Greg Brown, I mean, he has that massive alley-oop in I believe it was the first quarter, a massive block shot, like showing off his athleticism. But I mean, Greg Brown, who was their regular season scoring leader, he had just 9 points. So all week, I mean, really, everyone was talking about this 3-headed monster on Calgary and, Ruggsy Miller-Moore, the Canadian Player of the Year finalist. And Niagara managed to shut down these three big imports. I mean, Ruggsy, he came to play. He had 19 points. He was their best player on Sunday, but Niagara was just suffocating those three guys, and they just could not get into a rhythm. I mean, Evan Gilliard Jr., he looked so frustrated out there.
Yeah.
As soon as the game ended, he just like sprinted towards the tunnel. He just did not want to be seen. He did not want the smoke, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I'll be honest, Joey, like going into Sunday, I thought Calgary was going to win by at least 10. And now I feel like a total bozo. But yeah, Niagara, they are the class of the league. Victor Razzo, great story. I mean, here's a Canadian guy, fully diving headfirst into this league, and becoming just the second coach to win 2 titles, hell of a run. And it was so cool talking to him all week, just learning more about the league and whatnot, and just how much appreciation that he has for the league and what it's done for not just Canadian players, but Canadian coaches like him. And, he just raved about Winnipeg. Like I said, off the hop, he said, this is the crown jewel arena in the city, in the league, sorry. And that it was a real treat getting to play the final there. So, hell of a run. And Khalil Ahmad, though.
Oh, dude.
My goodness.
Lion
when
King,
it's target
whatever,
score time.
Mr. Target time. That to me, he's Mr. Target time. I know the Lion King thing, whatever, but like, man, that guy in target time, he is target time.
Absolutely. And it was crazy. So, but I mean, I think people were a little bummed that the game ended on free throws, which, I mean,
hey,
you never like to see that, but
still have to hit them.
You still do. Totally. And he didn't last year. Last year, before he hit the floater against Vancouver to win the finals, he had a shot to win at the line, and he missed. So he said in the post-game presser on Sunday that was it, fresh in his mind. He's like, I cannot let that happen again. And sure enough, he did. But it was crazy, though. I think it was the possession before that. He had a floater that he just threw a tad bit short. And that would have been 2 years in a row that he ended it with the floaters. That would have been kind of cool, but he missed that one. But yeah, 5 playoff games in a row, Khalil Ahmad has scored the target score winner, dating back to their run last year. 30 career target score winners now for Khalil Ahmad, leads the league. I'm not sure I'd go as far as saying he's the best player in league history, like his coach said, because Xavier Moon,
impressive resume when he started running off. If you haven't seen it,
totally.
The conference is on my Instagram page at Joey Slattery TV. Probably worth floating through that and seeing some of it, because it was impressive.
Yeah. But he is 1 bazillion % though in the conversation, but if he's not the greatest player in the league history, he's at the very least the most clutch player in league history.
Yeah, I still think Xavier Moon is the best player in league history, but I digress with that. You know what though? I'll say this first off. Shout out to Niagara, because Vic Razzo and the Niagara staff listen to this podcast, which is awesome. So shout out to them for the support of Target Score Winnipeg, even though they're out there in Niagara. But the other thing here, Taylor. It took them 6 years to win that first championship. They got to the playoffs every single year, won some, lost some, but never got over the hump. They've lost in the finals, conference finals, whatever. It takes some time. And I think that's the other thing too, is Winnipeg is 3 years old. It does take time to build these. The other teams won early because the league was young too, right? Like a new team coming into teams that are established, it's tough. But Vic Razzo, I'm sure the diehard fans in Niagara were getting frustrated as well. And then once he won 1, he won 2, right? So the big part there, continuity. They have the same players coming back every year. They have a guy like Kimball McKenzie, doesn't play much anymore, right? But he's that culture guy that's able to stand out. And I think that's where, if you're Winnipeg looking at the other teams and how they found their success, whether it's to get to the game or to win the game, because right now you have to do both. Like, you got to go one step at a time. You still have to win that playoff game before you can start thinking championships. But you got to look at what's been working. Because to even Calgary's credit, total turnover outside of Gabe O'Saboyan and Ruggsy Miller-Moore. But Ruggsy Miller-Moore and Gabe O'Saboyan were the guys they needed to keep that culture. And Coach Caleb Canales said it throughout the season, how much he was thankful for those guys welcoming him in as a new head coach. But they kept the players, they kept the culture, even though they had to turn over the coach. And I think that's what Winnipeg needs to find. They had it in Chad, right? And that's the most unfortunate part. And I thought the league did a wonderful job at honoring him with Chad's parents bringing out the trophy for the presentation as well. But that's the big thing for the Winnipeg Sea Bears now, is you got to find the culture guy that wants to be here long term, and can carry that culture, at least year over year for a couple of years until they can build that nucleus. But there's definitely some reflection to be had over these next few weeks, and then some moves to be made into the off season that you're going into next year where it's a real playoff that not only do you have to win a game if you get to the final. It sounds like it's going to be a best of 3. So then you got to win a series, right? So you can't just hope that you have that one good game like they could have had on Friday and win a championship. So it's very much so. It was a weird season to cover. I've said it time after time. Storylines were there, but it was nice to have the meaningful game finally. Didn't work out the way they wanted to. Just didn't have it on Sunday, and unfortunately that led to Calgary getting to the final, and they didn't have it on Friday, rather. Sorry. Winnipeg and Calgary didn't have it on Sunday, and Niagara's your champions, and it's well-deserved, right? They went through the grind of a season. The way I look at that one, that is a championship season. It wasn't perfect. You had your lows. You had major lows going into the actual playoffs, and then a break to let that settle. And I'd asked that too, if that was an advantage. She said, I didn't really think about it that way, but you go into that break with a sour taste in your mouth, knowing that we can't lose 6 in a row because that will be our season. And I think that Scarborough win, it was like the monkey off their back. And I think they played a lot looser and more focused in that game against Calgary. So
one of the most interesting, I think, things that I learned this week, or that I heard this week, was Vic saying that he was actually happier that they went into this break. I think it was a 10-ish day break because they were the number 1 seed in the East. Happier that they went into that break on a big losing streak. They had lost their last 5 regular season games, which, I mean, is kind of a skewed number because they had nothing to play for because they clinched the East so early. But still, you never really want to go into the playoffs losing 5 in a row. But he said, I was happier to go into that long break on a losing streak as opposed to going into that long break on a big winning streak, because going into the break on this big losing streak, they knew, like, okay, we got some stuff to work on here. Well, we're not clicking right now. We're not rolling. So the guys really locked in. And, Kimball McKenzie was saying, their point guard, their captain, he was saying that, we're a team that we watch film of our practices. He said, I've never watched so much film in my entire life. So this team, they prepare harder than anyone, it sounds like. You can tell that they all get along. They all love each other. In the post-game presser, like half the team was in the room and they're, cheering guys on as they're answering questions and whatever. It was just like you could just tell, like, the chemistry is obviously there and how much respect they have for Coach Vic and just, everything that he's done for that program as well. So yeah, I feel silly that I picked Calgary to kind of smack them pretty good going to Sunday, knowing all that. But yeah, they are the class of the CEBL. They're the team that everyone's chasing. And you're right, it did take some time. So maybe, Sea Bears fans should be a little more patient, maybe. I don't know. And then, even Calgary. I mean, they came into the league same year as the Sea Bears, right? And they haven't won a title either. Yes, they've been to the finals twice. They've at least gone closer, but
in the championship weekend every year since they've been in Calgary.
Yeah. But again, nothing to show for it.
Yeah,
Ruggsy
totally.
Miller Moore, got a feel for him. He's been a day oneer for the Surge and still looking for his first ring. But
and he had a great year this year.
He did. Totally. Well, so yeah, Joey, the season's over, but I mean, there's still going to be lots to talk about in the coming weeks, I'm sure. I think we need to have our first ever Target Score Winnipeg award show in the next few weeks here. We got to hand out the yearly AJ Hess award. We got to hand out the Teddy Allen MVP of the team award. These are some prestigious awards, Joe.
Glenn Yang award. We got a Glenn Yang award in there too.
Yang award.
Yang Gang.
Sure, why not? Yeah, the Yang Gang. So yeah, there'll be lots to talk about, Joe. Hopefully we can have a few friends of the program hop on as well in the coming weeks. But yeah, man, it was a crazy summer. Even though the games in the regular season technically didn't matter, they always gave us something to talk about. So it was a blast breaking it down with you, man. And in a way, we're just getting started because, again, it's going to be a hectic off season and lots to unpack here. We need more than 50 minutes to do so.
100%. But glad to have you along. Shout out to everybody at Championship Weekend. Just an unreal event and great T-shirts too. The T-shirts and the sweaters were sick, so I'm glad I was able to get those. But yeah, the great congratulations to everybody at Championship Weekend. Congratulations to the Niagara River Lions for going back-to-back, the second team to do so in the CEBL. And a lot of stuff to unpack throughout the offseason. We are not going anywhere. We will still be around. This is not our season finale, because I know it kind of feels like it because the season's over. But yeah, we'll have a few guests down the road, get to our awards, and unfortunate. I was glad Winnipeg showed up despite the loss. Everybody was able to digest it on the Saturday, have a little fun at the Sean Desmond concert, come back Sunday, and looked like pull for Niagara. And although I had Calgary winning, and I think most people would have Calgary winning, they were big favorites going into it. Everybody got their wish in Winnipeg of Niagara winning that game. But good season. So for the CEBL, I thought it was awesome. Maybe a little too long. We lost some players, but we'll see what changes come there as well from a CEBL standpoint. But nonetheless, had a great time, and we will keep it going. Follow us on Instagram at TargetScoreWPG, on YouTube at TargetScore Podcast. I'm Joey Slattery at Joey Slattery TV. He's Taylor Allen at Taylor Allen 31. We will see you next time. Enjoy a little break here. Take a breather as we get back to normal non-basketball life. See you in a bit.